Joins us now on the Morning Roast here with Joe Shaskin, the Butcher, and Bonte Hill, and longtime Yankee broadcaster. Announces his retirement back on April 15th, but we love playing his calls. Longtime Yankee broadcaster. John, good morning, man, or good afternoon out there on the East Coast. Thanks for spending some time with us here on the West Coast.
Well, it's my pleasure. No, it's still morning. It's 11:30, which is a good time for me. So thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely, man. We love talking about the Yankees and the brand and everything like that. And John Carlo, obviously Aaron Judge having a great year. Juan Soto looks like a perfect Yankee. And let's just start there because obviously you're retired, but I know you're still keeping up with the team here. Juan Soto just feels like the perfect Yankee. He was made for the pinstripes, John. Come on now. And your call, we just played your home run call with Juan Soto. What has his impact been like in the Bronx this season?
Well, of course, Juan Soto would be great on any team because he's a tremendous player. But the Yankees last year were a terrible hitting team, very un-Yankee-like. And they had very few left-hand hitters. And so Soto was absolutely the perfect guy for the Yankees. And they have a much better hitting team. They're much more balanced. Volpe is a better player. Judge, after a slow start, has been phenomenal, but Soto has been very important to the Yanks, no question.
You know, how are Yankee fans feeling about Aaron Boone? You know, it feels like every year this guy's been on the hot seat, and I get a kick out of him. I really like him. He loves dusting it up with the umpires. But how are Yankee fans about him right now? How do they feel about him right now?
Well, right now the Yankees are 39-19, and in first place, and just a smidge behind the Phils for the best record. So right now, Boone is a terrific guy. He's very easygoing. He never knocks a player, so the players love him. And, so right now, everything is good. But in New York, and this is true, the Knicks and the Rangers who've been in the playoffs, and if you don't win at all, you haven't done your job. So, I mean, there's a long way to go for the Yankees, but right now, because the team's in first place, Boone's in good shape. In New York, there's not a lot of in between. I always kid that when you lose a game, you're the worst team ever to play ever in that sport. When you win a game, championship. So there's not a lot of middle ground.
John, Bonte and I were talking about this morning, and, you referenced the Knicks, and Jalen Brunson seems to be a huge star right now. But Aaron Judge had a monster month, and he's been there a lot longer. Now, I know he hasn't won the big one. Who's the bigger star currently? Is it Aaron Judge, or is it Jalen Brunson in New York?
Well, I will tell you what I think, whatever that means. I never saw anyone mean more to a team than Jalen Brunson. I mean, he carried the team. In fact, with different players hurt, Thibodeau's offense was Brunson. And he'd dribble around, go up some high picks, dribble around until he could find his shot. And he's amazing that he's able to find his shot. So I thought this year he had as great a year for a team that a player could have. It's different in baseball because one guy, I don't care how good he is, he can't carry the team. In basketball, it's very different, of course.
Yeah, we saw that with the Angels all those years with Mike Trout. You can't carry the team. You brought up the Rangers. Tough loss for the Rangers last night to the Florida Panthers, John. At the Garden, losing 3-2. Now they face an elimination. But we'll move on. I do want to ask you about this, John, because obviously you were with the Yankees for a long, long time. And I believe this was their second season. And I just started watching this documentary on Peacock, The Bronx Zoo, the 1990 Yankees. Nobody ever talks about them. And I get why they don't talk about them after watching the documentary. John, what do you remember about that long lost season with the New York Yankees, 1990, when they threw a no-hitter in Chicago, Comiskey Park, and lost the game?
Yeah. No, what year were you talking about?
1990.
Well, I got here in 89.
Right.
And they were awful. And I knew they were going to be awful. I looked at the team. I thought, oh, my goodness, who's going to hit? And, 90 and 91 were just as bad. But then Stick Michael became the GM. Buck Showalter became the manager. And the team started to improve. And, of course, it came to a crescendo with Joe Torre, who won 4 times in 5 years. But I don't remember 1990 as anything special other than they weren't a good team.
Right. Well, we're watching this documentary as young kids like Shasky and I. We didn't know much about the 1990 Yankees. And, boy, there was a cast of characters on that team. Not good at all. And that had to be rough broadcasting that team every single day, knowing they were losing games left and right. And you had prime time Deion Sanders on that team.
Well, 1998 was, obviously the most special year. Actually, our favorite year was 96. I'm talking about Michael and Susan and myself. They weren't expected to do anything, and they hired a friend of mine, Joe Torre, to be the manager. And in 96, they did so many things right to go all the way and win the championship. 98, they just had a fabulous team. I'll tell you one thing about 98 where you can't go wrong. They scored the most runs in baseball, and they gave up the fewest runs in baseball. So if you score the most and give up the fewest, you're going to have a hell of a year. And let's face it, they had a hell of a year.
John, you were with this team for so long. You're synonymous with the Yankees. And when I think of the Yankees, we were having this conversation about what they represent. It's like excellence, high quality, America, baseball, New York, the insignia, all the great players, whether it's Babe Ruth, DiMaggio, Garrick, Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Reggie Jackson, stealing other people's players. What's it like going on the road as a part of one of the biggest sports teams in America? Does it still have the same cachet currently that it did back in the 2000s and into the 90s?
Well, it was fabulous, no question. And, I always say that, let's say the Yanks are playing the Red Sox when they were, blood enemies. I would say it's grist for a broadcaster's mill, grist for my mill. So many people care about it. Listen, watch, jam the stadiums. So that's all great. And with the Yankees, I'll tell you another thing that happened that I thought was great. Interleague play came in 97.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point, every time the Yankees went to a National League city, sold out. I don't care what team you mention. San Diego sold out 3 games. And so, that was very exciting to be with the Yankees during that period. Yes, sir.
No, sorry to cut you off, John. I thought you were done there because I was going to ask you the difference between the Steinbrenners. George Steinbrenner, obviously outspoken, boisterous, always making the tabloids, and it felt like he helped that Yankee brand go to another level. Now you get Hal running the team, and they're a little quiet. We don't know much about them. How are the young Steinbrenners compared to their father, George?
Well, George was as different as any human being could be. I must tell you that George Steinbrenner, for whatever reason, really liked me and told me so several times. Hal is much easier, easygoing, has strong opinions, but, no one can be like his dad. I mean, George was cut from a different cloth. So, I'll tell you one thing about the 98. I just realized it. In 98, Michael Kay was my partner, and we would begin the pregame. Why, I don't know, but we would do, 2 or 3 minutes of nonsense leading into the interviews and whatever else was on the pregame. Well, it was on the pregame. There's a lot of spots. It was on the pregame. But I can recall saying to him, and this is in 98, when they really started winning, and I began once by saying to Michael, are they going to win every day? I mean, it's not baseball. And that's the way it was for a good period of 98.
Did George ever fire you and then rehire you?
No, he just... I could go through the stories. I don't know how much time you have.
We got plenty of time.
I want to hear any of them. Did you ever say anything on air that he took umbrage with?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 3 quick. 89, my first spring training, it was in Fort Lauderdale. And Sunday evening, 6-ish, you're going out for, drinks and dinner. And I'm on the elevator. And who's on the elevator? George. Only George. And we rode a floor or so, and then he turned to me and said, I just want you to know, I always wanted you to do Yankee games. And see, in the 70s, I had a talk show in New York, and I was doing play-by-play. And And then in a couple of years later, I had kind of defended him. The Yanks were awful. He was getting knocked every day. And I said on the air, which he must have heard, I said, why don't they knock the players? They're the ones who aren't hitting or aren't pitching. And we were in Milwaukee a couple of nights later in a rain delay. And I was just walking around and killing time. And George was in a booth. And he saw me, and he stopped. John, he stopped me, and he said, I just want you to know, you'll always be the Yankee announcer. If they try to replace you, I'll veto it. So anyway, that's George. He is great. Even after the worst loss, the last game lost in the playoffs in '95 to Seattle, it was a great series.
Mm-hmm.
I had to walk to get to where the bus was in back of the center field fence. You had to walk to the dugout and on the field, and there is George standing there. And the proverbial steam is coming from his ears. So I had to walk past him, and he said, don't worry, there'll be changes. Not you and Michael. You guys are great. So that's how great George was to me. So I'm very lucky.
There definitely was changes. Buck was out the door. What, a day or two later? Buck Showalter, it was a cold game. And he helped rebuild the Yankees, man. But it feels like we do miss George Steinbrenner, that type of character in baseball, that type of owner who all he wanted to do was win, win, win. He's addressing the team. He's doing all the radio interviews. He's making out of tabloids here. Go ahead, John.
Well, one thing George did for baseball, he showed the other owners how to make money out of their franchises. This is all before the local sports networks. The Mets have one, the Yankees have one, and he showed in different ways how to concoct revenue streams. And, baseball now is a phenomenal success. Now, baseball is now, I don't really know the figure, but I'll throw something out that's close. Baseball is a $10 billion a year business. And George really helped in that regard. So,
you had so many opportunities to cover the greatest of the greats. And then you also, I'm sure, had to see some of the legends come by Yankee Stadium at times. Who is your personal favorite Yankee of all time? It doesn't have to be the greatest player or whatever that you ever saw, but who's the guy, for whatever reason, is your favorite?
Well, I'll give you one you'd never think of. I won't say he's my only favorite, but I like him very much, and I'll tell you what I used to say about him. Anyway, the guy was Hideki Matsui.
Huh.
And he was the loveliest gentleman, and the greatest teammate. You don't have to do anything for Hideki Matsui. He just went out to play hard every single day. So there's one of them. I really liked him, and I used to say about him, and it's too bad that he's Japanese, because he is the All-American boy. He's everything you want on a team. So
Matsui.
Well, fellas, I am going to run for a brunch date.
Hey, well, you go do that, John.
John, you gave us great 20 minutes. Thank you.
20 minutes that we didn't ask for.
Salute.
It was great. We love you. We always play your highlights. Enjoy your retirement. Hopefully we talk again soon as the Yankees are in town this weekend. Take care, John.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anytime. John Sterling here on the 40 Roast on 95.7 The Game. And hey, fellas, I got to go to a brunch.